The American Prison and Rehabilitation System, a project on social change presented by Stephanie Garay for Social Problems at California Baptist University. This presentation will explore the ineffectiveness of the American prison system and its effects on society. Harsher sentencing practices have made the U.S. criminal justice system a defining presence for many families. The result is a warped system that attempts to protect but actually creates vulnerable populations. Currently, the U.S. houses 25% of the world's prisoners. There are 2.3 million incarcerated people in the United States. That is 5 times the international incarceration rate. Let's look at a few statistics provided by the Federal Bureau of Prisons to help understand the incarceration problem in this nation. As of last week, the federal prison system housed more than 211,000 prisoners. The Federal Bureau of Prisons operates 119 total institutions, 16 of which are in California. Please do keep in mind that this is just a snapshot of our federal system only. It does not account for inmates in state and county facilities. Let's break down this information. First, we explore the various security levels. In California, there are high security facilities in Atwater and Victorville. These institutions have highly secured perimeters, featuring walls and reinforced fences, multiple and single occupant cells, the highest staff to inmate ratio, and close control of inmate movement. There are 5 medium facilities in California, which have strengthened perimeters, often double fences with electronic detection systems, mostly cell-type housing, and a wide variety of work and treatment programs. California has 4 low-security facilities, which have double-fence perimeters, mostly dormitory-style housing, and strong work and program components. Next, we look at race. We see that 59% of inmates are white and 37% are black. This indicates a strong correlation between crime and racial groups. Looking at gender, we see that only 6% of inmates are female, demonstrating incarceration is a social issue mostly impacting American males. Many argue that a great part of the problem with the American prison system is in its sentencing terms. We see here the statistics on sentencing lengths. The largest population, almost 30% of inmates, are serving 5 to 10 years. That's over 57,000 inmates. And when we look at the longer terms, more than 40% of inmates are serving sentences of 10 years or greater. We know who's serving time, and we know for how long. But why are these people locked up? Well, we see that 50% of inmates are detained for drug-related offenses. Next up, 15% are in for weapons, explosives, and arson. 6% of inmates are sex offenders, and 3% are convicted of homicide. Currently, we have 80 prisoners serving federal time for offenses against national security. So we know a lot about the offenders, but who are the true victims of this broken prison system? Victims of the social problem. With such incarceration populations, communities are deprived of potentially valuable human resources, and the system becomes more ineffective. Because prison is the new norm and not the exception amongst populations, people grow numb to its purpose. Let's look at some of its victims. Families. The family unit is disrupted. It has less income coming into the home, and this often results in subpar care, and most often in poverty. Then there's the released prisoner, who's restricted due to their own earned stigmata, but these lengthy terms make them less and less in touch with current society and impedes on their ability to reassimilate and re-enter the world to become productive again. There's the mentally ill inmates, who are more likely to be sexually assaulted and abused. Our prisons now hold 4 times more mentally ill than our mental health hospitals. Our incarcerated youth. They begin this in and out lifestyle during incarceration, and they lack the adequate education and job training from within, making their re-entry into society much more difficult. And lastly, our taxpayers. They are burdened with an increased cost to house and care for inmates. Let's explore the financial burden and the cost of incarceration of an inmate. Healthcare expenses include medical, psychiatric, pharmaceutical, and dental needs. Operation costs pay for facilities, records, reception, and transportation. Inmate support includes food, activities, clothing, and religious activities. And rehabilitation programs encompasses academic, vocational, and substance abuse problems. As you can see, it costs over $47,000 a year to house and care for an inmate in California. This is more than twice the amount allotted for an American living under the poverty line. Here are some of the contributing factors to our problem. The inconsistent judicial system. Rather than suffering the consequences the first go around, many offenders are reprieved with warnings about next time. The returning prisoner. A return prisoner phenomenon has erupted in the nation. Within this in and out mentality regarding lockup, prisoners actually look forward to seeing their buddies back on the inside, forming bonds, packs, and gangs. And the lavish conditions in prison make it a worthwhile trip. Inmates are afforded luxuries on par with those on the outside. They have air conditioning, fitness centers, TVs, and free health care, something many other Americans don't. Prisoner misconduct and violence, resulting in additional crimes from within, only increase the prisoner's stay. And we have an ineffective parole and probation system that allows for early release for the convicted and only comes with more empty threats for future violations. The consequences. Many Americans and their families are growing numb to the punishment of imprisonment. It's become a norm. And so, there is no shame in the reoffense of a second or even a third trip, and more people are becoming reoffenders. This has a substantial effect on the cost of the prison system, a cost absorbed by the true victims of society through taxation. The problem has escalated so much that prison overcrowding has become its own separate issue. Facilities cannot accommodate the population nor the duration of these lengthy sentences. California attempted to solve this issue itself by passing AB 109, which released nonviolent offenders back into the community, like probation. Who wins in this system? That's right, the criminals do. You can break the law multiple times without feeling the true consequence of your crime. And even if convicted, an early release is almost always guaranteed. Plus, life on the inside, well, it isn't all that bad. The criminal has just found himself a new career, in violation and reincarceration. Prisons, jails, and rehabilitation centers have also benefited, but to a lesser extent. Additional funding and jobs are made available to operate these facilities. Although, the stress of operating a maxed-out facility to budget can hardly feel like a win to its administrators. Rehabilitation centers probably benefit to a greater extent. Drug offenders are given the option to rehab, and thus we have created an entire, extremely profitable industry in drug rehabilitation centers. Who has the power to create change? To start, our judicial system. District attorneys prosecuting for true crimes. not making deals that offer lesser crimes and lesser sentencing. People need to be held accountable for what they did the first time. And we need to impose consistent punishment for the same crimes. There should be no guessing as to what one's punishment will be. Also, the parole board needs to reassess this release for good behavior. Why are we rewarding people after the fact? How will we solve the societal issue? Here are a few proposed solutions. First, we eliminate parole programs. Punishment sticks, and they are carried out in entirety. Society will benefit with this assurance. It will eliminate the need for government-funded parole and probation departments, and it's going to save our taxpayers. Second, administer shorter and swifter sentences. Sentencing needs to be done more rapidly after trial, feeling the immediate consequence of one's actions. Punishment needs to be standard to the crime, and a shorter term gives the released a better chance to assimilate again. And certainty in punishment can be enough of a deterrent in itself. And last, reduce the fringe benefits provided to those in custody. Removing the amenities and limiting the comfort factor makes serving time less desirable. This will reiterate the concept of punishment in prison. Society will benefit from a substantial savings in health care, and there will be more universal understanding of punishment for a crime and a greater aversion to spending time behind bars.